What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 15 of the How to Code a Spigot plugin for 1.15 series. In today's episode, I'm going to go over the number one thing I probably get asked a lot about other than plugin.ymls in my Discord server, and that is saving a hash map to a data file. Now, I created this little thing behind me to try to explain it better. Because a lot of people have trouble with hash maps, and now I use hash maps in pretty much all of my plugins, like I said before in the past, and it's so helpful once you really understand them. So why would we save a hash map to a data file? There's many reasons why you would, and in this episode I'm going to go over a private vault. So the plugin that we will be creating is a /pv for private vault. Open it up and we see you got this my name CMax's private vault, and I have all my different items in here. Now if I remove some items and I open it back up, you'll see the items have removed. And now why are we saving a hash map to a data file? Is because if I remove these items and I reload my server, hash maps get deleted on a reload, on a restart, on a stop server. If your server is restarting, the hash map will be deleted. Now, if I save that hash map to my data file, I'll be able to open up PV again, and you'll see the file is exactly the same. I still have all my items in here, and this is because all these items are saved in a hash map that when the server shuts down, it's all put in a data file, and that data file is then re-entered into a hash map when the server starts up. So let me re-explain that real quick with some chests and some hoppers real quick. So I'm holding a bunch of player heads here, and these will be representing player data. Now, if I hop up here, you'll see I got two chests. I got a hash map chest, and I got a data file chest. Now, this right here represents the server is on. The server is running, players on it, we're all having fun and stuff. And you see here, I got hash map input. So now whenever someone opens up the private vault GUI and they're entering data in there, that data is being thrown into these hoppers, right? This data is going into here and stuff, and it's going to end up in the hash map. All this player data is going to end up in this hash map. And this hash map is not going to go anywhere because there is no hopper here. There is no way for it to get to a data file, and that's because the server is running. When the server is running, let's save everything in the hash map. There's no reason to put stuff into files. There's no reason to keep opening up files, inputting data, taking out data. We don't want to deal with that where we can just put it all in a hash map. Now that it's in a hash map, let's say the server shuts down. When the server shuts down, we enter these new hoppers here. And basically when the server shuts down, what it's going to do is going to take these player heads, this player data from the hash map, and it's going to put it into the data file. And this is the main point of this episode. I'm going to show you guys what the code looks like to translate a hash map to a file YML code. So basically, when the server shuts down, we're putting these hoppers in here. We're saying, hey, let's save this hash map to a file. And the reason why is because once we have this file saved, we can go over here, put the file in here, and you'll see when the server starts back up, what we want to do is grab that data file, the file that contains our hash map info, and put it back into a hash map. So let's go over that real quick. Server running, we're putting data into this hash map. Once the server is shutting off and we're canceling all the tasks, that data from the hash map is then inputted into a data file. Hash map, data file, hash map. It's just a big old circle, and it's just awesome. And like I said, today we're going to be dealing with items, and I feel like items is probably the hardest part of translating to a data file. I did have many people ask me about other things, and I'm going to go over a few episodes about this because I feel like hash maps are probably the hardest thing that people have, hardest thing for people to understand. So, like I said, we're inputting info to the hash map, then that info from the hash map is going to a data file, and then it's going to repeat data file to hash map, data file. It's going to go in a circle. All right. So the code, let's finally start coding. The code for the private vaults. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's open up your Eclipse right click on the left side, the package explorer, go to new, Java project, and let's just call this the private vault. I'm gonna go ahead and press next. I'm gonna go up to the libraries tab and we're gonna put in an external jar of the Spigot 1.15. And mine says 1.15.1. It's actually 1.15.2. I'm just renamed it because I'm too lazy to go in there and change stuff around. But like I said in many episodes before, I try to make this series last a long time. So if you're coding 1.18, 1.8, 1.12, this series will work for you. So once you have that Spigot download in your project, let's open up that project. I'm gonna zoom in for you guys. Click on your src folder and we're gonna create our first package. If you have a website, your package should be the name of your website, the name of the project. Now, I don't have a website, and probably many of you guys people don't have websites either. So you can do your name here instead of website. And then for put me. So me.yourname.the name of the project. Go ahead and press finish. Once you have that package created, right click on it, go to new class. And we're going to create that main class. The main class, of course, is going to have three major things. The extends Java plugin, and that is just bringing in our Spigot download to our project so we can use all the Spigot API. Next, I'm going to create two methods here. I'm going to create the onEnable method. And then I'm also going to create the onDisable method. And we'll be using both of these in this episode because when our server starts up, we want to put the info from the data file into the hash map, and when our server is being disabled, we want to get that info from the file and put it in the hash map. Did I say the right hash map? Oh, when I'm being disabled, we're putting the hash map to the file. Yeah, okay, opposite. It'll make more sense as I go on. Hopefully I'm not confusing you guys. So next, let's go ahead and let's create our hash map. I keep saying this hash map thing. If you don't know what hash map is, it's gonna look like this. Map, and to have two data things in here, two data types. And the data types could be a string and a string. It could be a string and an integer. It could be a string and an inventory. It could be string and a player. Just any two data types. And then for this episode, we're going to put a string and we're going to do an item stack. Actually, an array of item stacks. We're going to store all the values. And I'm going to name this menus. We'll set equal to a new hash map. String item stack. And then that, and then two parentheses, and then semicolon. Go ahead and import all that. We're going to import this item stack right here, the first one, not this 1.15. Now, if your plugin is 1.15 specifically, like only 1.15, then you can go ahead and use this one. But this first import will work in all versions of Spigot. All right. Now, that might look a little scary to new people who haven't been coding before, if you're new to Java. I've been coding hash maps for a while now, so I kind of just know this by heart. It isn't too bad. It's just basically running map, two data types, the name. Can be anything you want. It's a custom name. It could be menus. It could be vault. If I can spell, it could be vault. Whatever you want. It's just the name of the data type. That's what a hash map is. It's just another data type. We're going to name this menus, like I said. And then we're just saying it equal to a new hash map with the same values inside. Now, one more thing I like to do, really up to you guys, but I like to make this a public static. That's usually how I use all my hash maps are static. I know a lot of people will be against that, but for now, it's fine. This is a small plugin. Who cares? Public static hash map. Now that we have the hash map created, we are going to go ahead and start making the actual command, the /pv command. And what that command is going to look like is another method, a public boolean on command sender, and we're going to name this sender. We need a command named cmd. A string I'm going to call labels, and an array of strings called args. Type in return false. And then another thing I get a lot of questions about is the import for command. It is going to be this bucket.command, not the Mojang and not the material one, just the first one right here, the bucket.command. All right. Now that we have that in there, we can go ahead and start coding our command. And of course, the first thing we want to say is if the label dot equals ignore case PV, that is our command. Next thing you want to say is if exclamation point sender instance of player. And now this is the opposite, turn true. So what I'm saying here is if the sender is not a player with this exclamation point, it means not, the opposite. So if the sender is a player, not. So if sender is not a player, go ahead and just kick them out. We don't want to do anything with them. If they're a console, who cares? They don't have a vault. The console can't do player stuff. And we're just going to say sender.send message. And I'm just going to say no. I'm going to get some spaces down here so I can scroll down because I like to code like this at the top. So now that we know that the sender is a player, we can go ahead and say player equals the cast of a player. And we're casting the player to the sender. Awesome. Now there's two things we need to check for. So what this onCommand method is going to do, whenever someone runs this /pv command, we're basically going to create this inventory for them. We're going to create the inventory. I'm going to fill it with the items from their hash map. We're going to fill whatever items they have in this item stack. We're going to put the items in the item stack into the inventory. Now there's two things we need to do here. First off, we need to check if they have items in here. And if they have items in there, let's go ahead and put that in there. But if they don't have items, let's just open up a empty GUI. So we'll say if the menus dot contains key, and there's contains key and there's contains a value. I went over this in a past episode, but the difference between these is, let's do a comment real quick. Nope. There's a key and there's a value. This will be the key and this is the value. The key is the first one, the value is the second one. So what we're going to say is if menu dot contains key, we want this first one, the string, and what the key is just the player name. Actually, we're not going to do the player name. We're going to do the player UUID, yeah. And then we do .toString. So what we're going to hold right here in this string is the UUID of the player. Now, why do I do that and not just the name? Is because now you can, in Mojang, you can change your name, and if someone changes their name, they'll lose everything in their GUI, in their private vault. So instead, we're going to change it to hold their UUID. And I'm going to hold it as a string, so I did .toString, or to hold this UUID as a string. So what this if statement says is if the menus contains this UUID, that means they have info. They have info in the hash map. Basically, they already have items in the hash map. So let's just get that items from the hash map and let's put it in there. So first thing I want to do is create an inventory. I'm going to call this inv. I'm going to set it equal to a bucket dot create inventory. The first place is the owner. It's not really important. I guess I'll go over this more in depth in another episode. But you can put null here. You can put player. We'll just put player for now. So the owner will be the player who owns the checks. Obviously, they own their own private vault, I guess. We'll just say that. And then the size, this is up to you guys. It must be consistent. So what do I mean by consistent? I'll show you guys in a second. We'll say 54 slots. And these are based by 9 slots. So the 9 slots will be the first one, then 18, 27, 35, right? What? 36, 45, 54. So every 9 is what it is. And 54 is the highest you can get. So we'll say player owns the chest, 54 slots, and then the name. So this is pretty important for this episode for my code. Because we're going to be checking the name when the GUI closes. So the name has to be consistent every single time you create it. It also has to be unique. So what I mean by unique is, well, has to be different from everyone else's. So my name is coded red. Say your name is Bob. My chest will say coded red's chest, and your chest will say Bob's chest. Unique, different. Mine, I'm never going to say Bob because my name is coded red. So we're going to say player.getName plus, and then here we can put a customize. We can do whatever you want. Coded red's private vault. Now that we have this inventory created, we go ahead and set the contents, and it's super easy because we already put the contents in the hash map. So all we have to do is inv.set contents menus .get, and what we're getting, as you can see here, we're getting the key. We're getting this key. You can't use get value. I mean, you could if you run it through a for loop, and I'll show that in another episode. I'm pretty sure you might have done it already. But menu.get the key. So what are we getting? We're going to get the key, and the key is the player.getUniqueID.toString. Boom. That's it right there. We just grabbed all the item stack value. We got the key. So the key is coded red UIDs, whatever that is, 83, whatever. And we're getting the value from it, and we're putting that value into the inventory. Next, all we have to do is open up the inventory. Player.open inventory. And the inventory is called inv. And we type in return true just to cancel it out. And I did get a question about return true and return false and what are the major differences. And I really don't know any major differences. I've been coding Spigot plugins for like 6 years now, and I never heard of any major differences. The only thing that I experienced is that return false sometimes returns the actual command, while return true, it doesn't return anything. So like if you type in return false right here, what I experienced in my past is that it will return a message that just says /pv. It just says / whatever your command is. So typically I type in return true, and then I only type in return false outside of my command, outside that if statement. All right, now that we have this if statement done, we have the if statement done that says, hey, they have value in the menu. What if they don't have value in the menu? So after this if statement, you can do else if you're new to coding. A lot of people, I mean, when you learn Java, it's like if else, whatever. Because this if statement right here has a return statement in it, we don't need to put an else. We just put code right here. And that's because if they have value in the hash map, they're not going to see any of this code under it because it returns it. So right after this if statement, we're going to type in some code, and that basically is this right here. We're going to copy this inventory code, paste it right under, and then copy these two things and paste it right under as well. Because if they do not have any value, go ahead and just create it. And we can even do this better. We could probably just create the inventory up here and then set it. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do this. All right. To make our code look, better, I guess, let's go ahead and create the inventory up here. And if they have the value, look at this. Look at this. We're going to do something cool. Yeah, so go to this comment. We don't need comments. We know what we're doing. We're smart. Look at that. We just shorten our code a lot. So what we're doing is getting the player. We're creating the inventory because our inventory is going to be the same all around. We're creating the inventory. We're saying if the menu has contents, if they have some value in that hash map, go ahead and set the items, the item stack array into the God, I'm losing my train of thought. Go ahead and set this item stack value into the inventory and then open it. This if statement will only run if they have value in the hash map. Look at that. Our code looks so much better just by doing that. All right. Now that this command is done, that 8-minute long command explanation, let's actually get into the actual coding of saving and stuff. So the first thing we're going to do is actually save stuff to the GUI. And to do this, we need a event. So we're going to go up here and say implements listener. I'm going to import that. Once it's imported, I'm going to keep all my stuff in this main file. So right up here, I'm going to say this.getServer.get plugin manager .register events this. And what this does is it's going to register all our events from this class only. So now we can go ahead and actually create an event, and that event is going to look like this: at event handler public void on GUI close inventory close event. Go ahead and import everything. And I'm pressing Control-Shift-O to import it. Now that we have this method here, we can go ahead and there's only 2 lines of code right here. So what am I doing here is whenever the GUI is closing, that's when we want to save the values. So I'm here in inventory. Let's edit these values around. Let's put a bunch of diamonds all around like this. Now, whenever I close my GUI, I want to save the instance of all these values in the certain slots into my hash map. So when the GUI is closing, we're going to say if the event.getView.getTitle.contains event.getPlayer.getName plus private vault. And this is what I meant by make sure the name of the GUI is very important. Whatever you create it is where we're to check it as. So once we know that they're in this GUI, we can say menus.put, and right here you can see we're going to put a string key for a item stack value. So we're going to put, what's the key? The key is the UID. We're going to put event.getPlayer.getUniqueID.toString event.getInventory.getContents. Boom, done. Now, what am I doing here is, like I said, when the GUI is closing, the first thing I'm going to do is check if they are in our GUI. Now, if you're coding in below 1.14, 1.13, this is a little new. You can probably get the name of it a bit easier. But if you're coding 1.15 plus is the way you get the name of the GUI. This is the new like API way. Event.getView.getTitle. If you're in 1.8, I think you can just do like get inventory, get title, something like that. But yeah, so once we know that they're in our GUI, once the name of the GUI is equal to this, we go ahead and put the value, and the value is the contents, the item stack array, into their UUID. This is the saving part, basically. This is the saving into the hash map. Once they put values from the command method, they run this command method, they put values in the GUI. We put values in this GUI. Now, when we close the GUI, what we want to do is save it into the hash map. Boom. Now, if I did go ahead and run this code, the code will work pretty damn good. Everything will be working fine, except this entire, whenever we reload the server, restart the server, or stop the server, everything that's inside this GUI will be empty, and that's because we didn't save it to a file. So let's get into that portion of the code. Let's save it into a file. Now, this video is approaching like 25 minutes right now, and I know a lot of people are like, don't complain about the video being super long. It's just my render time is like, it takes me an hour to render videos now because my internet sucks. So let's try to get this done in the next like 10 minutes. So we're not going to use a data file. I went over custom files in the past. You guys can go check out those videos to learn how to do custom files. Instead, I'm going to create a config.yml and just save the values into there just to save time. So in the enable, I'm going to type in this.save default config. That's going to go ahead and that's going to create our config.yml. And like I said, typically you want to create your own custom YML, but we're going to do a config.yml for the sake of time. So now inside here, what I want to do is I'm going to create, actually no, outside we'll create two methods. We have this method called the save inventories, save ims. And we have this restore ims, and let's make this. So save ims, this is going to save the inventory on the on disable, and then the restore ims is going to restore the inventory on the on enable. All right. So what do we want to do? We can go ahead and type it in the on disable first. So in the on disable, we want to say this dot save ims, boom. But we don't just want to say that. We actually want to say if the menus dot is empty. So if the menus are not empty, save the inventory. So basically, if the hash map is empty, there's no value in the hash map, don't save it, because we're going to run into an error if you try to do that. And then if it is not empty, go ahead and save it. And the on enable, we can say this sort of the same thing. If this dot get config dot contains data, this dot restore inventories. And I'll explain the data in a second. Sorry, I coded this plugin like 3 weeks ago. I'm trying to remember everything I did. But let's do the save inventory first. So when the server is shutting down, how to save the inventory is could for loop, and we're saying for map dot entry. And what are we entering in here? We're entering a string, and we're entering an item stack. Entry. Menus dot entry set. Let me type this up and I'll explain in a second. So this is a for loop, and this is how you check. This is how you go through every value in a hash map, and you get all the key and the value. This is what a for loop looks like for a hash map. And so we're basically going to go, when we save the inventory, we want to do this dot get config dot set. And what we're going to set, we're going to set data dot entry dot get key. We're going to save that, and we're going to save the entry dot get value. And then for the value, yeah. So that's actually all we do. And then this dot save config. So we want to go through all the values in the hash map, and we're going to save the key, which is the UUID, and we're going to save the value, which is the item stack array. We're going to save. Actually, I can show you guys real quick. So this is what our data file will look like. It's going to have data, and it's going to save the UUID. This is my player, and it's going to save the item stack array. This is all the info of the item stack. It's 54 slots, and it's to save which slot it has what. This slot has that. This slot has this. Blah blah blah. This is what's going to be saved in our file. And then finally, make sure you have the save config. Make sure you're saving it. And then to restore the inventory, what we need to type is this dot get config. Let's do dot get configuration section. This would be data dot get keys false dot for each key. For each key. Now I explained this before in a past video, but all this is doing is going through data. So if we have hundreds of players, it's going to look for this data and it's going to get the first key. This is a key. This is just value. So they go through and get all the key players. So they'll get all the UIDs on the file, and it's going to go through it all. It's another loop. It's a for each loop. It's another kind of for loop. And what it's going to do is it's going to go through the item stack. Let's create an item stack array. We'll call it content. This will be a little weird right here, but we're going to create a list. We're going to list item stack. This. I'm going to type it up real quick, and then I'll explain it. Key Okay. Okay, when we import list, then this is gonna be a little error. Okay, there we go. Sorry, it's a little complicated. I can't really explain and talk and type at the same time. So what we're creating here is we're create the array of item stack. This is just what the item values are. And in our data file, you saw it gets saved as a string list. Each value is a list. So this gets saved as a list. So basically we want to get that list from the file, but then we want to convert it to an array of a new item stack. It's it's a bit complicated to explain, but basically we're getting all these values underneath the player's UID, and we're converting it into an item stack array. So here we're casting this to a list, and then we're setting that list that we casted to an array of item stacks. Awesome. Now that we have the contents of the file, now we can just go ahead and put it into the menu. Menus.put key, and the value will be content. And we're done. Yeah. We are finished. Now we go ahead and pop in an SRC, go to new, file, plugin.yml. And we're also going to need to create a config.yml. Inside the plugin.yml, go ahead and input all your stuff. Main, the main will be me.codered.privatevault.main. It's just referring to this main class. You're going to put the package.the class. And then the name is private vault. The version is 1.0. The author will be yourself. And then the commands, 2 spaces, PV. Awesome. And let's go ahead and export this to the server and run it and see how it works. I'm going to export it as a jar file. And I'm going to name this episode 15. Of course, you probably should name it private vault. Go ahead. Reload my server. All right. Now, I already have info in my file, but if you go ahead and open up your server file, your server folder, go into your plugins folder, go into the private vault folder, and you'll see an empty file. But then once you type in PV and we start putting some stuff in here, I'm going to remove stuff and I'm going to put it right here. And we do PV again, you'll see I still have, oh, sorry, my server's lagging. PV again, you'll see I still have my stuff in there. If I reload the server, I'm typing in PV again, you'll see my stuff is still in the same spot and I have everything. Now, why to do this? Like I just said, you do it to save hash maps. Now, it does get your file does get a lot of information in there. So one final thing I like to add is once we get all that value, once we save all that value to the hash map, we don't need the info in the data file anymore. So on the on enable, once we restore it, let's go ahead and say once we restore it, let's remove the entire data file. So let's say this dot get config dot set data to null. So once we restore the inventory, once we save all the information in the hash map, we don't need this information in the data file anymore. Just take up space. We only want to take up space when the server's offline. So now if we restart it, if I update my plugin, reload my server, let's test it out with the new update. PV, blah, blah, I'm gonna edit it, reload my server, and PV again, you'll see I still have the same exact stuff in my inventory. But if I go into my file, get my file open again. Plugins. Oh, wrong one. Open up the same dang file. There we go. But if I go into my thing, oh, still have it. Oh, that's because we didn't save it. This dot save config. Sorry. Once you set it to null, save the config, and now we can go ahead and do it. See my file update, hopefully. Okay, here it is. Now that I found the correct file, you'll see the file is empty. But our PV still has the value in it, and it's only going to update when the server shuts down. So if I stop my server, open up the file, you'll see the file saves the value. But if my server starts up again, this file will be empty. Thank you guys for sticking along throughout this entire episode. I know it was pretty lengthy, running at like 36 minutes right now. Next episode, I'm planning on going about more hash map stuff, more inventory stuff. I'm probably going to create a kit plugin, I think, for next episode. But let's start talking more about GUIs. Let's start talking more about hash maps, and actually let's get into particles soon, because I feel like people have the hardest time with GUIs. And so I want to try to explain it the best way I can. I really hope you guys did enjoy this video and did understand what I did here. I know I talked a lot and went over stuff pretty quick, but I hope I did explain it the best way I could. So see you guys next episode. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Before I end the video, please go ahead and check out my Discord. We have a lot of different channels in here. If you need help coding, if you want to discuss code, if you want to talk to people, meme, if you want to showcase your plugin or even hire a developer, go ahead and join my Discord. We have a lot of cool people in here you can chat with. As well as I do have a new Patreon. If you want to become a patron for as low as $5, it will help me out so much. I have a lot of cool series coming your way, and I really want to get these videos out here, and the support will make it so much easier for me to get it out there. As well as I will be posting some private plugins, some private code only for my Patreon supporters. So go ahead and join if you like. Thank you guys for watching the video. I'll see you guys next time.